Chapter 1. The Birth of a Philosopher. I was born on April 22, 1724, in the bustling city of Königsberg, located in the northeastern region of Prussia. Königsberg was a place of great cultural and intellectual significance, and its vibrant atmosphere would undoubtedly shape my life and career. My father, Johann Georg Kant, was a skilled saddler, a craftsman who specialized in making and repairing saddles for horses. His work was demanding and required both physical strength and artistic skill. My mother, Anna Regina Reuter, was a gentle and caring woman who managed our household with grace and efficiency. She instilled in me a deep sense of compassion and a love for learning. I was the fourth of 9 children, and our family home was a lively and bustling place. My siblings and I spent countless hours playing together in the streets and gardens of Königsberg. We were a close-knit family, and the love and support of my parents and siblings would be a constant source of strength throughout my life. As a young boy, I was a curious and inquisitive child. I was fascinated by the world around me, and I was always asking questions about how things worked. My parents encouraged my intellectual curiosity and provided me with opportunities to explore my interests. I spent hours reading books, exploring the natural world, and observing the people and events around me. My formal education began at the Pietist Collegium, a religious school that emphasized moral and spiritual development. The teachers at the Collegium were strict and demanding, but they also instilled in me a strong work ethic and a love for learning. I excelled in my studies, and I quickly developed a reputation as a bright and promising student. Despite my academic success, I was also a shy and introverted child. I preferred the company of books to the company of people. I found solace in the world of ideas and imagination, and I often lost myself in the pages of my favorite novels and philosophical treatises. My childhood experiences would have a profound impact on my life and career. The love and support of my family, the intellectual stimulation of Königsberg, and the rigorous education I received at the Pietist Collegium would all contribute to my development as a philosopher. Chapter 2. A Religious Awakening. When I was 18 years old, I experienced a profound religious awakening that would forever change the course of my life. This event was a turning point for me, as it ignited a deep desire to understand the nature of reality and the meaning of existence. It was during this time that I became increasingly interested in the Pietist movement, a religious revival that was sweeping across Europe. The Pietists emphasized personal devotion, biblical study, and social activism. Their teachings resonated deeply with me, and I was drawn to their emphasis on the importance of living a meaningful and ethical life. I began to attend the Pietist meetings regularly, and I was captivated by the passion and sincerity of the preachers. Their sermons spoke to my heart, and I felt a sense of peace and purpose that I had never experienced before. As I delved deeper into the Pietist movement, I began to question the traditional beliefs and practices of the Lutheran Church. I was particularly critical of the emphasis on ritual and formality, and I felt that the Church had become too detached from the spiritual needs of its members. My growing disillusionment with the Lutheran Church led me to seek out alternative sources of spiritual guidance. I began to read widely in the works of religious thinkers, both ancient and modern. I began to realize that my religious beliefs were also deeply intertwined with my philosophical convictions. I came to believe that true faith must be grounded in reason and understanding, and that it should not be based solely on blind obedience to tradition or authority. My religious awakening was a transformative experience that would have a profound impact on my life and career. It ignited a deep desire to understand the nature of reality and the meaning of existence, and it led me to seek out alternative sources of spiritual guidance. Chapter 3. The Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a period of great intellectual and cultural ferment in Europe. It was a time of profound change, as philosophers and scientists challenged traditional ideas and sought to understand the world through reason and observation. The Enlightenment was characterized by a belief in the power of reason and human progress. Enlightenment thinkers believed that reason could be used to solve human problems and create a better world. They rejected traditional forms of authority, such as the church and the monarchy, and they advocated for individual liberty and tolerance. One of the most important figures of the Enlightenment was the French philosopher Voltaire. Voltaire was a champion of religious tolerance and free speech. He criticized the church for its intolerance and superstition, and he advocated for the separation of church and state. Another important figure of the Enlightenment was the English philosopher John Locke. Locke believed that all people are born with natural rights, including the rights to life, liberty, and property. He argued that governments are created to protect these rights, and that people have the right to overthrow a government that fails to do so. The Enlightenment had a profound impact on European society. It led to the development of modern science, the rise of democracy, and the decline of traditional forms of authority. The Enlightenment also inspired a new emphasis on individual liberty and human rights. I was deeply influenced by the Enlightenment. I believed that reason was the key to human progress, and I sought to use my philosophical skills to contribute to a better world. I was particularly interested in the Enlightenment's emphasis on individual liberty and tolerance. My early philosophical work was influenced by the Enlightenment thinkers. I was particularly interested in the work of Christian Wolff, a German philosopher who was a leading figure in the Enlightenment. Wolff's philosophy was based on the idea that reason is the only reliable source of knowledge. I was also influenced by the French philosopher Denis Diderot, who was the editor of the Encyclopedia, a massive encyclopedia that was published in the 1750s and 1760s. The encyclopedia was a landmark achievement of the Enlightenment, and it helped to spread knowledge and ideas throughout Europe. The Enlightenment was a time of great intellectual and cultural ferment. It was a period of profound change, and it had a lasting impact on European society. I was deeply influenced by the Enlightenment, and its ideas would shape my own philosophical work. Chapter 4. The Pre-Critical Period. My early philosophical work is known as the Pre-Critical Period. During this time, I was influenced by the ideas of Christian Wolff, a German philosopher who was a leading figure in the Enlightenment. Wolff's philosophy was based on the idea that reason is the only reliable source of knowledge. He believed that we can use reason to discover the truth about the world, and that our knowledge is not limited by our senses or experience. I was also influenced by the French philosopher Denis Diderot, who was the editor of the Encyclopedia, a massive encyclopedia that was published in the 1750s and 1760s. The encyclopedia was a landmark achievement of the Enlightenment, and it helped to spread knowledge and ideas throughout Europe. My early philosophical works were primarily concerned with metaphysics, the study of the nature of reality. I wrote several works on topics such as the nature of space and time, the existence of God, and the soul. One of my most important early works was my dissertation on the form and principle of the world of the senses. In this work, I argued that the world is divided into two realms: the noumenal realm, which is the world of things as they are in themselves, and the phenomenal realm, which is the world of things as they appear to us. I argued that we can never know the noumenal realm directly. We can only know the phenomenal realm, which is shaped by the structure of our minds. This idea would later become a central tenet of my critical philosophy. In addition to metaphysics, I also wrote on a variety of other philosophical topics, including ethics, religion, and politics. My early work on ethics was influenced by the Enlightenment thinker Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau believed that people are naturally good, but that they are corrupted by society. He argued that we should strive to create a society that is based on the principles of equality and justice. My early work on religion was also influenced by the Enlightenment. I was critical of the traditional forms of Christianity, and I advocated for a more rational and tolerant approach to religion. My early work on politics was influenced by the French philosopher Montesquieu. Montesquieu believed that the best form of government is a constitutional monarchy, in which the power of the monarch is limited by a system of laws and checks and balances. My pre-critical period was a time of great intellectual growth and development. During this time, I began to develop the philosophical ideas that would later form the basis of my critical philosophy. Chapter 5. The Critical Period. In the 1770s, I began to develop a new philosophical system that I called critical philosophy. This system was a radical departure from traditional metaphysics. Critical philosophy is based on the idea that human knowledge is limited by the structure of the human mind. Kant argued that we can only know the world as it appears to us, not as it really is. This idea is known as the Copernican revolution in philosophy because it overturned the traditional view that the human mind is a passive mirror of the world. Instead, Kant argued that the human mind actively shapes our experience of the world. The structure of the human mind is determined by the categories of the understanding. These categories are innate mental structures that allow us to make sense of our experience. They include such things as causality, substance, and necessity. The categories of the understanding are necessary for us to have any experience at all. Without them, we would be unable to distinguish between objects and events, or to understand the relationships between them. However, the categories of the understanding also limit our knowledge. We can only know the world as it appears to us through the lens of these categories. This means that we can never know the noumenal world, the world of things as they are in themselves. This distinction between the phenomenal world and the noumenal world is central to Kant's critical philosophy. Kant argued that we can never know the noumenal world directly, but we can still have knowledge of the phenomenal world. In addition to the categories of the understanding, Kant also argued that the human mind is structured by the transcendental aesthetic. The transcendental aesthetic is the set of conditions that make experience possible. It includes such things as space and time. The transcendental aesthetic is also a source of knowledge. It tells us something about the structure of the world, even though we can never know the world as it is in itself. Kant's critical philosophy was a revolutionary development in philosophy. It challenged traditional metaphysical assumptions and offered a new way of understanding the limits of human knowledge. Kant's critical philosophy has had a profound impact on Western thought. It has been influential in a wide range of fields, including metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics. Chapter 6. The Critique of Pure Reason. My most important work is The Critique of Pure Reason, published in 1781. In this book, I argue that the human mind is structured in such a way that it imposes certain conditions on our experience of the world. These conditions are known as the categories of the understanding. The categories of the understanding are innate mental structures that allow us to make sense of our experience. They include such things as causality, substance, and necessity. The categories of the understanding are necessary for us to have any experience at all. Without them, we would be unable to distinguish between objects and events, or to understand the relationships between them. However, the categories of the understanding also limit our knowledge. We can only know the world as it appears to us through the lens of these categories. This means that we can never know the noumenal world, the world of things as they are in themselves. This distinction between the phenomenal world and the noumenal world is central to my critical philosophy. I argued that we can never know the noumenal world directly, but we can still have knowledge of the phenomenal world. The Critique of Pure Reason is a complex and difficult book. However, it is also a masterpiece of philosophical thought. In it, I offer a detailed and systematic analysis of the structure of the human mind and the limits of human knowledge. One of the most important arguments in the Critique of Pure Reason is the argument for the synthetic a priori. Synthetic a priori judgments are judgments that are both necessary and non-analytic. They are necessary in the sense that they are true in all possible worlds. They are non-analytic in the sense that their truth cannot be deduced from the meanings of the terms involved. An example of a synthetic a priori judgment is the judgment that every event has a cause. This judgment is necessary because it is true in all possible worlds. It is also non-analytic because its truth cannot be deduced from the meanings of the terms event and cause. I argued that synthetic a priori judgments are possible and that they are essential for our knowledge of the world. Without them, we would be unable to make sense of our experience. The Critique of Pure Reason is a landmark work in the history of philosophy. It has had a profound impact on Western thought, and it continues to be studied and debated by scholars today. Chapter 7. The Critique of Practical Reason. In The Critique of Practical Reason, published in 1788, I argue that the human mind is also structured in such a way that it imposes certain conditions on our moral experience. These conditions are known as the moral laws. The moral laws are universal and categorical imperatives. They tell us what we ought to do, regardless of our personal desires or interests. The most famous formulation of the categorical imperative is the universal law formulation. This formulation states that we should act only in such a way that we can will that our maxim should become a universal law. A maxim is a rule or principle that guides our actions. For example, the maxim, "I should always tell the truth," is a rule that guides us to be honest. According to the universal law formulation of the categorical imperative, we should only act in such a way that we can will that our maxim should become a universal law. This means that we should only act in such a way that we can consistently will that everyone else should act in the same way. For example, If I lie to my friend in order to get out of trouble, I cannot consistently will that everyone else should lie to their friends in order to get out of trouble. This is because if everyone lied to their friends, then no one would be able to trust anyone else. The universal law formulation of the categorical imperative is a powerful tool for moral reasoning. It can help us to determine whether our actions are morally right or wrong. Another important formulation of the categorical imperative is the formula of humanity formulation. This formulation states that we should treat humanity, whether in our own person or in the person of another, always as an end in itself and never merely as a means. This means that we should never treat people as mere objects or instruments. We should always respect their dignity and worth. The formula of humanity formulation of the categorical imperative is also a powerful tool for moral reasoning. It can help us to determine whether our actions are morally right or wrong. In addition to the universal law formulation and the formula of humanity formulation, I also propose other formulations of the categorical imperative. These formulations all express the same basic idea, that we should act in such a way that we can consistently will that our maxim should become a universal law. The Critique of Practical Reason is a landmark work in the history of ethics. It has had a profound impact on Western thought, and it continues to be studied and debated by scholars today. Chapter 8. The Critique of Judgment. In the Critique of Judgment, published in 1790, I argue that the human mind is also structured in such a way that it imposes certain conditions on our aesthetic experience. These conditions are known as the principles of taste. The principles of taste are subjective, in the sense that they are based on our individual preferences. However, they are also universal, in the sense that they are shared by all human beings. The principles of taste include such things as harmony, unity, and purposefulness. These principles tell us what we ought to find beautiful or sublime. For example, we find a painting beautiful if it is harmonious, unified, and purposeful. A harmonious painting is one in which all of the elements are in balance. A unified painting is one in which all of the elements work together to create a coherent whole. A purposeful painting is one that has a clear meaning or message. However, the principles of taste are not purely subjective. They are also based on objective conditions. These objective conditions include the structure of the human mind and the nature of the world. For example, we find certain things beautiful because they are harmonious, unified, and purposeful. This is because the human mind is naturally drawn to these qualities. The Critique of Judgment is a landmark work in the history of aesthetics. It has had a profound impact on Western thought, and it continues to be studied and debated by scholars today. In addition to the principles of taste, I also discuss the concept of the sublime. The sublime is the experience of something that is so vast or powerful that it is beyond our comprehension. Examples of the sublime include the vastness of the ocean, the power of a thunderstorm, and the beauty of a mountain landscape. The sublime is a complex and fascinating experience. It can be both terrifying and exhilarating. The Critique of Judgment is a rich and complex work. It is a masterpiece of philosophical thought, and it continues to be studied and debated by scholars today. Chapter 9. The Perpetual Peace. In the Perpetual Peace, published in 1795, I argue that it is possible to achieve a state of perpetual peace among nations. This can be done by establishing a League of Nations and by promoting international law. The League of Nations would be a global organization that would be responsible for maintaining peace and security. It would have the power to resolve disputes between nations peacefully and to enforce international law. The League of Nations would be based on the principles of republicanism, federalism, and cosmopolitanism. Republicanism is the principle that the government should be based on the consent of the governed. Federalism is the principle that power should be divided between a central government and regional governments. Cosmopolitanism is the principle that all people are citizens of the world, and that they should be treated with equal respect and dignity. I believe that the League of Nations would be able to prevent wars by providing a forum for the peaceful resolution of disputes. It would also be able to enforce international law, which would help to prevent aggression and promote cooperation between nations. In addition to the League of Nations, I also advocate for the promotion of international law. International law is a set of rules that govern the relationships between nations. It includes rules on such things as war, diplomacy, and human rights. I believe that international law is essential for the maintenance of peace and security. It provides a framework for cooperation between nations, and it helps to prevent aggression and conflict. The Perpetual Peace is a visionary work. It offers a blueprint for a world free from war and conflict. I believe that the principles of the League of Nations and international law are still relevant today. The challenges of achieving perpetual peace are great. However, I believe that it is possible to create a world in which peace and security are the norm rather than the exception. Chapter 10: Personal Life and Relationships. I was a bachelor for most of my life. I did have a few romantic relationships, but I never married. I was a devoted teacher and mentor, and I had many students who became famous philosophers in their own right. I was also a religious man. I was a member of the Pietist movement, and I was deeply committed to my faith. I was a private person, and I did not enjoy socializing. I prefer to spend my time alone, reading and writing. However, I did have a few close friends, including the philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder. Herder was a major influence on my early philosophical work. I was also a dedicated teacher. I taught at the University of Königsberg for many years, and I had a reputation as a demanding but fair instructor. I was proud of my students, and I was always happy to see them succeed. Despite my solitary nature, I was not completely isolated from the world. I was aware of the political and social events of my time, and I was concerned about the future of humanity. I was a strong believer in the power of reason. I believed that reason could be used to solve human problems and create a better world. I was also a strong advocate for individual liberty and tolerance. I was a complex and contradictory person. I was both a scholar and a man of faith. I was both a private individual and a public figure. I was both a critic of society and a believer in human progress. My personal life was as interesting and complex as my philosophical work. I was a man of many contradictions, but I was also a man of great integrity and intelligence. Chapter 11: Family and Friends. I had a close relationship with my family. My parents were very supportive of my career, and my siblings were always there for me. My father, Johann Georg Kant, was a skilled saddler. He was a hard-working man who provided for our family. My mother, Anna Regina Reuter, was a gentle and caring woman. She was a loving mother and a devoted wife. I had 8 siblings, including 4 brothers and 4 sisters. My older siblings helped to raise me, and I was always grateful for their love and support. My family was a source of great comfort and joy to me. They were always there for me, no matter what I was going through. I also had a number of close friends. My most important friend was Johann Gottfried Herder. Herder was a major influence on my early philosophical work. Herder was a poet, philosopher, and historian. He was a brilliant man, and he had a deep understanding of human nature. I admired his intelligence and his compassion. Herder and I often discussed philosophical and religious matters. He was a great source of inspiration to me, and I learned a great deal from him. I also had a number of other friends, including the philosopher Friedrich Schiller. Schiller was a poet and playwright. He was a talented and charismatic man, and I enjoyed his company. My friends were a source of great support and encouragement to me. They helped me to stay focused on my work, and they provided me with much-needed companionship. I was a private person, and I did not enjoy socializing. However, I did appreciate the company of my family and friends. They were an important part of my life. My family and friends were a source of great comfort and joy to me. They were always there for me, no matter what I was going through. I am grateful for their love and support. Chapter 12. The End of a Life. I died on February 12, 1804. I was 79 years old. I had lived a long and productive life. I had made significant contributions to philosophy, and I had helped to shape the course of Western thought. I died peacefully in my sleep. I had been ill for some time, and I was ready to leave this world. My funeral was a simple affair. It was attended by a small group of friends and family. After the funeral, I was buried in the cemetery at the University of Königsberg. My death was a great loss to the philosophical world. I was one of the most influential philosophers of my time, and my work continues to be studied and debated today. I am remembered for my contributions to metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics. My most important works are the Critique of Pure Reason, the Critique of Practical Reason, and the Critique of Judgment. My philosophy has had a profound impact on Western thought. It has been influential in a wide range of fields, including psychology, sociology, and political science. I am a complex and fascinating figure. I was a man of great intelligence and integrity. I was also a man of deep faith. My life was a testament to the power of reason and the human spirit. I will always be remembered as one of the greatest philosophers of all time. Chapter 13. Kant's Legacy. Kant's philosophy has had a profound impact on Western thought. His ideas have been influential in a wide range of fields, including metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and aesthetics. Kant is often regarded as one of the greatest philosophers of all time. His work continues to be studied and debated by scholars around the world. One of Kant's most important contributions to philosophy was his development of the concept of the transcendental. The transcendental is the realm of pure reason, which is beyond the limits of human experience. Kant argued that we can have knowledge of the transcendental, even though we can never experience it directly. Kant's concept of the transcendental has been influential in a wide range of fields, including metaphysics, epistemology, and theology. It has also been influential in the development of modern science. Another important contribution of Kant's was his development of the categorical imperative. The categorical imperative is a moral law that tells us what we ought to do, regardless of our personal desires or interests. Kant argued that the categorical imperative is based on reason, and that it is a universal law that applies to all people. The categorical imperative has been influential in the development of modern ethics. It has also been influential in the development of political philosophy and social theory. Kant's philosophy has also been influential in the development of aesthetics. Kant argued that beauty is a subjective experience, but that it is also based on objective conditions. These objective conditions include the structure of the human mind and the nature of the world. Kant's concept of beauty has been influential in the development of modern art criticism and theory. It has also been influential in the development of the philosophy of music. Kant's philosophy has had a profound impact on Western thought. His ideas have been influential in a wide range of fields, and they continue to be studied and debated by scholars today. Kant's legacy is a complex and fascinating one. He was a man of great intelligence and integrity. He was also a man of deep faith. Kant's philosophy has helped to shape our understanding of the world and our place in it. His ideas continue to be relevant today, and they will continue to be studied and debated for many years to come.